Hello, everybody, and welcome to our DataPlay podcast. I am the host, EB, and the Chief Executive Officer at the Sika Research and Consulting Company. So for today's episode, we have a very special guest, Mr. Mishra Tapan. He is a UN resident coordinator in Mongolia and the head of United Nations in Mongolia. So thank you for accepting our invitation for this podcast. And so welcome to our podcast, Mr. Tapan. And so it's really nice to meet you.
Tapan, Eden Bilek Darga, Sambano, Sambatsgano. I'm happy to be on your podcast, and I'm hoping that many Mongolian people who speak Mongolian, therefore, Udrimin, Sambatsgano, Talsan Tataban, and I'm very pleased to be here to talk about data that Sika works very closely on. Just a brief introduction. I've been here in Mongolia as the UN resident coordinator since September 2019, almost more than 1.5 years. And I have also worked as a UN resident coordinator and UNDP resident representative in Pyongyang, North Korea for 4 years, more than 4 years before I came here. And before that in New York for many, many years, totally have worked for more than 18 years in the United Nations. And before that, in the private sector, public sector. And I have a very great respect for data, and therefore I'm happy to speak to you. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. It's great. So now also I want to express my our appreciation for the UN missions and the projects and programs implemented in last 6 decades and since 1961. So my first question is, so how are you doing during this COVID time in Mongolia?
I'm doing very, very well. But again, I'm very concerned that the COVID situation in Mongolia is still quite concerning. The community transmission rates are relatively high. It was bordering about 2,000 cases a day. It's come to about 1,500 cases per day. So many of our UN colleagues have got infected, and therefore we have to be very careful. Currently, UN House is closed, and we are mostly working from home. We're taking all due precautions to prevent any further community transmission or infection to our colleagues. We are also supporting the government in terms of the health, humanitarian, and socioeconomic response to COVID. So that's a big partnership we're doing with the State Emergency Commission, with the Deputy Prime Minister's Office. We have developed also a COVID Mongolia website where all the data and information about COVID, its impact on people, impact on businesses is available. And if you can ask your viewers and your audience to log in to covidmongolia.mn.
covidmongolia.mn. Okay.
Yeah? So that's a website where all the information data, now we have developed that website and we've handed over to the government through the DPM's office in SEC to the CETA, the Communication and Information Technology Authority, and the data center, National Data Center, is updating and keeping that data updated. And that's one big help. Also, we are working on the health and humanitarian as well as socioeconomic response for the COVID. So that's there. And personally, I'm very happy that we've also been supported the government of Mongolia in the vaccinations through the COVAX facility. But I really congratulate the government of Mongolia for doing extremely excellent job in terms of getting the vaccines for the people of Mongolia. And Mongolia is one of the highest rate of vaccinations per person, perhaps in the world. So that's a great initiative. But despite that, vaccinations, the numbers still are quite concerning. So that's the overview of the COVID situation. So far, personally, I'm safe and I'm okay, but we are taking due care. Thank you.
Okay, great. So can you also briefly explain about your opinion on last 6 decades, UN in Mongolia, and also in the future? Yeah.
Okay. So in the last 6 decades, as you said, this is the 60th anniversary of the UN Mongolia joining the United Nations. On 27th of October 1961, the UN had joined. Today, in his 100th anniversary speech, the President and the Speaker of the Parliament the President addressed and mentioned about the UN contribution to development of Mongolia. And this has been significant that in multiple facets, UN has worked with Mongolia side by side to work on development. So over the 6 decades, many important initiatives and projects have been done. There are initiatives which have fructified into the entire institutions like the Gobi Goya for Kashmir, the Has Bank for banking. Many institutions have been helped with, including with NEMA. The UN has supported in development on poverty, on governance, in terms of the areas of UN's work. If I may mention to you, is that we have been working on sustainable management of natural resources. We've been working on the fact that there are many areas that we have contributed in terms of we have a current cooperation framework. We worked in protecting the environment, building democratic governance, ensuring food security, protecting maternal child health, promoting decent jobs, facilitating access to quality public services such as health, education, water, and sanitation. These are few examples that we have worked, but overarchingly, earlier we were working on the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, and from 2015, Mongolia joined 193 countries in signing a global accord on the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. And the 17 SDG goals that are there help us to have a comprehensive framework for development, including in Mongolia. So we work closely with the government of Mongolia to frame that. In Mongolia, the UN signs a strategic planning document, which is called UNDAF, the UN Development Assistance Framework. From 2017 to 2021 was the 5 years. But because of the COVID situation, so that we are able to focus on the implementation of the UN activities to meet the challenges of the COVID and the impact, we have extended the UNDAF by 1 more year up to end of 2022. And from 1st of January 2023, we will have a new framework, which is now the new standard for the UN, called the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, or the UN SDCF, or in short form, the CF, Cooperation Framework. So we're moving from assistance to cooperation. And we are going to focus on working through not what the UN can do, but what the government needs, what the people of Mongolia need. It's a most need-driven on the national priorities, where the UN can add maximum value through our capacities and competencies and our capabilities, where we can partner with the government to address those development challenges. So we are in the process this year in 2021, which is a special year because of the 60th anniversary. Also, we are working on what is called a common country analysis, which is a comprehensive analysis of the current situation in Mongolia, looking at issues, challenges, gaps, and perhaps the situation in a more analytical manner, looking at economic, socioeconomic, environmental, social areas overall, and then which will help us to identify where the issues and challenges, where the needs are more, and where the UN needs to focus on the cooperation framework. We are also doing our evaluation of the UNDAF so that we can learn lessons from what has been done well, what can be done better, what are some new areas that we can work, etc., and what are the lessons learned. So that will all help us to define the new strategic framework going forward, which is the cooperation framework, the UN SDCF. That's where we are currently.
Okay. So basically, is when we talk about the UN, we don't listen about the UN DAF a lot, just because the subsidiaries of the UN mission is many, so some of the, or maybe most of the industries, is only work with the one branch of the UN. Therefore, is as a big picture, you give me a very good insight. Thank you. So this season of the podcast is emphasizing about the Data Literate Nation initiative we have initiated in the past. So in the beginning of this initiation, we are trying to bring the awareness of the importance of data literacy in Mongolia. So we think that we speak in Mongolian language and in everyday life, in the family and everything. But regarding development programs and projects and long-term vision and goal achievement, we don't understand each other, the concise and clearly. Therefore, everybody's the justification system is different, therefore the sustainability is impossible for that. So data and research is very important for our communication, understanding each other, and also the measuring our achievements and also the progress. So for that, I want to ask about what is the data and data literacy for UN?
Very important question. But before I go to it, let me give you some data about the UN. So since you asked me what the UN has been doing, just a couple of data, data is basically facts and figures about what is the truth and reality of situation. So I told you about the work we've been doing. So between 2017 and 2021, the UN collectively mobilized. As you said, we had 15 agencies here, and which has been working on the strategic framework, on the UNDAF from 2017. And we have collectively mobilized 163 million, out of which 105 million US dollars was utilized for 174 projects and programs carried out in cooperation with 71 implementing partners across 21 provinces and the capital city, Ulaanbaatar. We have three outcomes. One is on promoting inclusive growth and sustainable management of natural resources. UN has contributed towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions, increasing specially protected areas of forest land, promoting decent jobs, reducing disaster-caused economic loss, and reducing poverty, especially child poverty in Mongolia. The second outcome is around enhancing social protection and utilizing the quality and equitable social services. The UN contributed towards protecting vulnerable groups through improving basic social services such as water and sanitation facilities, improving education and health services to the marginalized groups. Under the third outcome, which is fostering voice and strengthening accountability, the UN contributes to improving the capacity of governing institutions such as legal frameworks to ensure that the country's development is inclusive and sustainable and reflects the needs and protects the rights of all, including the young and the vulnerable. Every year, Mongolia reviews the results achieved together with the government and counterparts and publishes the progress towards the results, and all the data is available on the UN Mongolia website. So you can visit the UN Mongolia website and you can get all the data of what we have done, the results that we have reported on, and anyone can visit the UN Mongolia website and see the detailed results and the data of what we have done. We also have an integrated global system called UN Info, the UN information,
UN Info,
which collects all UN Info, which is an internal system which enables to capture the data, but all the reporting is available and accessible to all people to see in a transparent and open manner what the UN is doing, so that there's no mysteries about that. And as you rightly said, Ardhan Bilek, when we talk in a language, we bring not only data, we bring our information. So the difference between data, which is facts and figures, is our own analysis, our own interpretation, and that becomes our information.
Yeah.
To which we add analysis and we make our assumptions and beliefs, and we make our conclusions. And during a conversation, you normally talk about a conclusion, whether Ardhan Bilek is a good CEO or not so good CEO, or Tapan Mishra is doing a good job or not doing a good job. Those are conclusions. But if you go down, so there could be our conflicts at that conclusion level, at the interpretation level, at the analysis level, because our own assumptions, beliefs, and values do influence those data and facts. But if you come down to data, what have we done? How much money have we got? How many projects have we done? What is the impact of the projects? How many people have been benefited? That's data. And therefore, the common understanding and having a consensus can be based on good, effective data.
Yeah, exactly. For the the common understanding, and you said consensus. Yeah, exactly. So
because data does not lie. It's there. It is facts and figures. When we add other layers of our understanding, our interpretation, our analysis to the information and to the knowledge and experience and the assumptions, beliefs, then it becomes a little bit more subjective. But data is very objective, and there's no controversy normally there.
Yeah. So
it's a good meeting point.
Yeah. So it seems that the UN has a very good data management, and also the accessibility for from everybody is open. So but what do you think our government and about the Mongolia about this data management?
I would like to appreciate that the government of Mongolia has been working through its NSO, National Statistical Organization, to really have the data quite well captured. There is a website called 1212, I believe. So I use a lot of that to look at the data on each of the factors, including the SDGs, because we need to report on the Sustainable Development Goals that we're working on. And we want to have real data, so which is absolutely from grassroots level to compile data, disaggregated data based on gender, on age, on demography, etc., to get the right analysis done. So data is key. So I would say that NSO does a fairly good job, and I think they do in the region. They are very respected, even globally. That it has certainly done a good job in getting a lot of the data. So I would like to compliment that. But obviously, there's always scope for improvement. There's always, and I really want to applaud you, Eden Bileg and Sika, for having this data literacy initiative to enable people to understand the value of data, so that we are talking in facts and figures and not assumptions and beliefs and conclusions which are not rooted in good data. So overall, I would say Mongolia has a fairly good data management system through the NSO, and all that data is also available to public of Mongolia to access. So I would, in fact, encourage more and more people to look at that data which is available officially, rather than going by today. There's a lot of disinformation through social media, which is not based on data and facts and figures, but on people's own assumptions and beliefs. So data is very critical and key. And thank you for doing this for the people of Mongolia.
Okay, thank you. So we are planning many activities in the future, but it's from the strategic point of view is it will be enabled by collaboration and the partnership, with the stakeholders, because everybody, maybe I hope that everybody knows about the importance of the data, but we don't find the strategic points, for example, for the open data, and also integration of the data and so on. And therefore we will try to to make it happen. We will try our best. So I'm just wondering that, and from the historic point of view, we were nomads, therefore that means not, what we do is we isolated, by families in the mountains and so on. In that case, we don't have a good data, and also the culture and habit from regarding habit, we just meet in the mountains and talk about the cases, and had in the past for the individuals. So it's basically we have a word that сургаар биш судалгаатай амьдрий, which means that let's live with that research, but not with the individual's opinions, the kind of words we have. So therefore is in this data and research field, and to be a data literate nation, we think that organizations need to be data literate. And and also families need to be data literate, and then come down as individuals, you know. But individuals have skills, but doesn't have a habit. We can't leverage from the data. Therefore, we are trying to create this awareness for and trying to change this attitude and habit relating or communicating with the data. So
then beleg Mongol soilik Mongol chod jokumoit loklo Mongol mulching.
Yeah.
You said in the world and the countryside and imags and bags and zooms do have a lot of mal in atoni yama so they have to keep count, right? So they have different ways of keeping the data, branding, and I've noticed when I go to the areas, the mulching on the mer is looking around how much data with his bankhar. And bankhar is also a data counter, right? So there is the different ways of collecting data from them and maybe memory, but today's modern systems, and again, as Mongolia is going towards digital nation, becoming more digital literate, data is a key component to be able to helping. It will help people to take, because there's a very good saying that what counts can be counted, what matters can be measured. So we need to measure and count things. Your number of ukhur, number of yama and hon. So you need to count all that. So to have to have exact figures, you need to count who's what age of that, so that you can know which one to be slaughtered, which one to be kept. So all that data is using even for the mulching, even for the common people in the herder community. So, but more and more in the businesses, because business is based on data. How much profits you're going to make depends on how much of income you have and how much of expenditure you have and what are the bottom lines, the top line, middle line, bottom line. So data is very important for businesses and business organizations. So as you said, the Mongol Soilik, people have been in nomadic culture, but we are understanding that we are in a modern world where we need to engage beyond our own country in the whole global world to be a global entity in the business world. So we need to really engage not only with Mongolian data, but global data also to be compatible, competitive, and be able to enhance our economic well-being.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for the points, regarding data and so on. And I hope that maybe UN has also the same, the interpretation regarding the importance of the data. So maybe in the future, maybe we will collaborate, because since the goal and the result is the same, and I hope that for this collaboration, and also with the other government and the other NGOs and everybody, since we know the this importance. So I think my next question is, I heard about the RCO office in Mongolia, UN established recently. So why have you established this RCO office in Mongolia? What is the main role for UN?
Okay, and then before I go to RCO, let me say a couple of things we talked about.
Yeah,
I want to congratulate Sika and you for taking up this initiative of data literacy. We are happy to collaborate with you and all partners, including NSO. We have a very good relationship with NSO and with the other partners like MNCCI and MONEF and other agencies and businesses which do work with data, so that we can collectively work together to ensure Mongolia becomes even more data literate, more effective in that area. And now coming back to the RCO, in 2019, based on the UN General Assembly resolution by all member states, they agreed that to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, the S17 SDGs, you need to have a more well-coordinated, cooperative effort within the UN, with the partners and the governments all together. Earlier, the resident coordinator of the United Nations used to be also the UNDP resident representative, was also in charge of the program and operations of UNDP, UNDP is one of the biggest agencies in the UN system. So it was a dual role. So the member states decided that we need to delineate the resident coordinator role from the UNDP RR role to give focused attention to the important aspect of effective coordination amongst the UN agencies, with the government counterparts, with other partners, to really achieve the sustainable development goals in the most effective way. And that is why from the 1st of January 2019, in every country in the world, the resident coordinator's office has been separated from UNDP and made an independent and empowered office, which has global oversight over entire UN and leads the whole UN country team in the country, and is the primary engagement with the senior most leadership of the country, with the president, with the prime minister, with all the ministries together, and with all partners and stakeholders. So that's the role of so I have joined here in Mongolia, and our UN country team, which is there, includes all UN agencies, and I, as the resident coordinator, am the leader of the UN country team, and I'm supported by a well-capacitated resident coordinator's office. We have 2 internationals, 1 economist, which is also does a lot of the economic data and analysis. We also have a partnerships and development finance person, 2 internationals, and we have 3 national professionals, 1 head of office and focusing on strategic planning and team leader for the RCO. We also have a person who's focused on M&E, monitoring and evaluation, results reporting, and data management. So that's a specific role in my office, which focuses on data as well. And then we have a communication advocacy, was the person that you met, Soelma. And we also have people who support us on other areas of humanitarian and human rights as well, right? So we have an empowered resident coordinator's office to look at the whole picture of the overall UN and its work in the country, to engage on strategic areas with all partners. And that is why the need for having an independent and empowered resident coordinator's office in every country in the world.
Okay. So so it's you have the people for a person for the data management, you know. So it's
we have a dedicated person for data management.
Yeah, that implies that you are giving the importance on this data management system. So it's also I was thinking that so many branches, and also the UN seems the very how can I say, the integrated, therefore there must be a very good data management system. I hope that also we in the near future also Mongolia has such kind of data management system, and the digital nation strategy also will be the basic for the data literate nation initiative. We hope that. So my it's really nice to discuss with you for this data management and so on. And my almost last question is what do you think in the further actions or initiatives to leverage from data for Mongolia?
So 3 things. First of all, when you asked about the UN system, every agency has an M&E person, right? So everybody in every agency, when they do projects and programs, they need to plan, they need to implement, and they need to monitor and evaluate and report on results. So all this data is there in the UN Info, the UN system on data, which our focal point in the RCO coordinates overall with all, and we have a M&E group, the monitoring and evaluation group, in the UN, with all the professionals of the UN who work together in a coordinated manner in making sure that all the results are properly reported, all the data is recorded in the system well, and that report is available, as I mentioned to you. So going forward, in the way the whole planning system is depending on understanding the analysis of the current situation, the needs, the challenges, the opportunities, and based on that, that's what the CCA I talked about, the Common Country Analysis, which is also a lot of data. What is the situation saying on the economic side, on the social side, on the environmental side, on the human rights side. So we're looking at everything together. and the facts and figures and the data there, and then doing a proper thorough analysis. And then we will be analyzing that data to see where should the UN focus in moving forward. And then once we plan that, then we need to do a planning exercise on the cooperation framework. Which agencies will do what to achieve those results. So we need to plan the results that we will achieve for the next 5 years, 2023 to 2027, and towards the goals of the 2030 agenda. How are we working with the government on that? And based on that, when the planning is done, we'll ensure that all the agencies implement those through programs and projects, achieve those goals. And then that achievement will be recorded through data and information on systems, and how much money did we generate, how many projects, what is the impact, how many people were benefited, and what is the net outcome of each of those initiatives. So all the data will be made available to all Mongolians through our website and through our data system, and all people around the world, so that we can transparently, because data is also very powerful. If you have the data, you know. If you don't have data, if you don't have access to data, you are only talking blindly in the dark. So data brings that light, common light, so that people can see the facts and figures clearly and have a common understanding, as I said before, to understand the situation in the reality of the situation in the most effective way. Yeah,
great. Yeah. So the very clear definition, regarding the project and program and everything. There is also,
if I may add to you, Bilag, you mentioned about the Digital Nation strategy.
Yeah.
As I mentioned to you, we are working closely with the Digital Nation strategy with the CETA. I've had meetings with the chairperson with CETA, with the entire team of CETA, and we have also agreed on what the UN can bring in. And we have in the UN come together in collaboration amongst the UN country team, also with our partners who are not here, like the agencies which are operating from outside, including headquarters. And we've identified 5 areas: inclusion, digital inclusion, digital literacy, capacity building, with a special focus on youth as active contributors to the digital transformation, universal access and fostering development of infrastructure, and to include digital connectivity. The third area is e-governance, enabling policy, digital green economy, e-agriculture, regulatory framework for digital economy, and an inclusive digital society. The fourth area is on human rights, and the fifth area is on innovation. So these 5 areas, we hope to collaborate closely with the CETA and the government of Mongolia and all other partners, including the UN and other development partners, so that we can collaboratively ensure that the digital strategy, the Digital Nation strategy, will be very effective and a great role model to provide access to not only data and information, but all services to people of Mongolia.
Okay. So also you are, that means that also the Digital Nation, the UN is also the one of the
actively working with them.
Yeah, the one of the key partner for this strategy. Okay, thank you again. Yeah, it's just about the missions of UN, and every time I'm just impressed with it. The UN is helping us a lot, and also the directing, directing us for the for the good goal and vision and so on, and also the enabling us to learn from others and so on. And also the like you said, the adjustment for the COVID situation, the UN is managing the main the management for the for foreign relations, and also the vaccination support and so on. So yeah, I just said that thank you very much for this every projects and everything you are doing, and we are closing to the end of the podcast now. I think we bring up the very good insights from the ASEAN UN representative, and so do you have anything to say? I haven't asked or mentioned.
That's a good question, Ardan Bilek, to ask. I did want to say some things before we close.
Yeah.
So, Ardan Bilek, first of all, thank you for inviting me for this podcast. And I want to thank all the audience who listen to this podcast to really understand what the UN does in terms of being able to serve the people of Mongolia in the best possible way, in achieving inclusive and sustainable development. And for that, the work we do depends a lot on the data we use to plan, implement, and monitor and evaluate, and then to report, which adds to the data. And we do that with all partners, including the government and other stakeholders. We'll continue with that. So please do use our data sites on our website, the UN Mongolia, and also on the COVID data that we have been providing on covidmongolia.mn with the CETA and the Ministry and the Deputy Prime Minister's Office, which is covidmongolia.mn, and the UN Mongolia websites that you can look at. What I would like to say to all Mongolian citizens through your podcast who listen to us, that please do work with us together. Let's all work together to make Mongolia's development accelerated, because we only have 10 years ahead, less than 10 years to reach the 2030 agenda. And we need to do data literacy initiative that you're doing is very important to help people to understand the reality, the facts and figures through the data, so that they can understand the reality better. And we do not get misguided by misinformation, by people's own assumptions, beliefs, and conclusions without access to real data, so that we can then have a good discussion of what we need to focus on, how do we prioritize, what actions do we need to take by the businesses, by the industries, by the people, by the mulching, so that we can really make every Mongolian proud and every Mongolian prosperous, that we are having more inclusive and sustainable development. And I want to assure you that the United Nations and Mongolia stands with you in that direction. So, Baitla, Sansak Negosi, Udrik Sakan Ungulare, Baista.
Baitla. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. And also thank you for the will, for the collaboration, and also asking for often for the collaboration. And let's end the podcast. And tomorrow is our national holiday starting, but still we are not sure we will watch the wrestling or not. It seems that we are not. So. But
this year we're going to take a break. But nonetheless, the spirit of Nadam is very important. Sakan Nadare.
Yeah. So
all Mongolians.
Sakan
Nadare.
Yeah. So thank you again, Mr. Tapan, and Sakan Nadara and Sakan Amrara, and also the thank you for all the audiences, and goodbye to until the next episode, and Sakan Nadara. Baita.
Baita.